Hey everybody, welcome in. I'm Adam Hildebrandt, and I'm happy to be joined today by Andy Mattern, who is the new director of the Doel Reed Center. And we're going to learn a little bit about him today, and then also a little bit about the DRC and talk about what exactly that is and have some conversation with that as well. So Andy, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the new role. You were named back in February, the director of the Doel Reed Center, but you've been with OSU for about a decade now. So what have you been doing through the university up to this point?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it is a new position that I've taken on here at OSU, but I started in 2015. I was hired originally as an assistant professor here in the art department to start the first photography program in the art department, which I did, and I wrote the classes, I designed the lab, I taught all those courses from the level at the beginning all the way up to advanced courses. And I did that for the last 9 years or so. More recently, I also took on the role of department head, so I'm now helping to lead the department and do all of the things kind of behind the scenes. So from the classroom to the administrative role, and then now the Doel Reed on top of that.
So obviously you didn't just show up on your first day of work and develop a passion for photography or art. That's something that usually comes beforehand. So where did that start for you? What is it that gave you this passion for photography and more broadly art as a whole?
For sure. Well, I grew up in a really creative family. I'm very lucky to have had that experience. I come from a family of educators and architects and artists, and they really inspired me at a young age to explore those things, to find a creative interest and then just go all the way down the rabbit hole. It started really with one of my grandfathers, who was an amateur photographer and very much a tinkerer of things. And I remember going into the back room of his house as a young kid after I expressed any interest at all in photography, and he had just all of these cameras and all these weird little parts and pieces in every drawer. So that was really the beginning for me. But then I went on to study art in college. I did a BFA in studio art with an emphasis in photography, and then later an MFA in photography, which led me eventually to academia.
You grew up in New Mexico, the land of enchantment. How did growing up in a place like that feed into your art passion?
Well, it's an amazing landscape. People come there from all over the world just for the light. And I heard that my whole youth growing up, that, oh, the light in New Mexico is spectacular. But to me, it's just, that's the way that it was. That's all I knew. And yet now that I've traveled so much and lived other places, I really do understand what they mean by that. And it's because the light is filtered through less moisture in the air. It's so dry, it's high desert. And that means that the clarity is just unbelievable. And that's why so many of these big name modernist photographers like Edward Weston and Ansel Adams came to New Mexico to look at the landscape through their cameras, because it was illuminated in this special and unique way. And that trickled down even into my education experience at the University of New Mexico as an undergrad, because there's a long history of really significant photographers who have been connected to that program. And I didn't even realize that as a young person, that university has this legacy of some really significant practitioners in the field, and that all kind of informed my direction as a photographer and as an artist.
So for those who don't know, the Doel Reed Center is located in Taos, New Mexico, and is a outreach outpost of Oklahoma State University. Doel Reed obviously has a legacy with that and was an artist himself. How did growing up in New Mexico connect you with Doel Reed? Did you feel kind of a connection there, I guess?
So Doel Reed originally came to Stillwater as the department head here in the art department in 1924. So here we are almost just a little bit more than 100 years later, and now I'm the department head of the art department. And he then went from Stillwater to Taos. He retired in Taos. I grew up in New Mexico and came to Stillwater, so we kind of have this crisscross parallel history. I wasn't aware of Doel Reed until I arrived in Oklahoma and until I became acquainted with the art department. But I think that there's this natural kinship because of our appreciation with place and landscape. And for me also, tying it back to my grandfather, I understand that impulse to find a location that inspires you and then to keep on investigating it and making images or making artwork or making any kind of creative expression that's based on that place. And that's really what I see in his work. It's not just landscapes, it's other kinds of imagery, but a lot of it is really looking at that place that he surrounded himself with, and that his family then stayed after he passed. His daughter, of course, was stayed in Taos, and she was the one who eventually donated donated the property to the university, and that's how we have this amazing space out there in Taos.
The opportunity comes up to direct the Doel Reed Center as well. What excited you about that opportunity when you learned about it?
It's one of those kind of serendipitous things where I'm now shifting more into the administrative role, so my mind is kind of in that organizational macro thinking space. And the Doel Reed Center has been an integral part of my time here at Oklahoma State. In just my second year being here, I visited as a Hargis Fellow, which is one of the programs that we run for faculty at OSU. They come out to the center for a couple weeks in the summer and do a self-directed project, kind of get a sense of the lay of the land there. And then the following summer, we ask that they apply with a course concept. And if that gets selected, then they can teach a class with OSU students out at the Doel Reed Center. I did that then 3 separate times after being a Hargis Fellow. And it was through that experience that I developed a real passion for this learning center and for the impact that it has on students. It's something that I'm just really excited by, that they get to have this exotic, special, unique experience together in this place that is really transformational. It's not hyperbole to say that they make friendships, they create artwork, they see things that they've never seen. Some of these students, I was surprised to learn, have never left Oklahoma. Others have, they've traveled a bit, but some of these students, this is their first kind of glimpse at the world beyond the borders of this state. And it's really exciting to be a part of that. So it was through that teaching experience at the Doel Reed, and then also this shift in my own career, that when the opportunity came about, it seemed like a natural fit. That I understand how this space has been used in the past, and I understand a bit about the university systems and the various forms and all the kind of logistics behind the scenes that need to happen to create this transformational experience.
For those who may not be familiar, what is the Doel Reed Center?
Well, I think that on a practical level, it's 3 adobe buildings south of Taos in North New Mexico. On a philosophical level, it's a set of conditions that create learning opportunities. So it has a physical location. You can think of it as a mini campus, but it's really mini. It's actually just 2 residential dwellings and then Doel Reed's old studio. And those can be used for teaching indoors, but there's also outdoor space. But then beyond that, there are all these opportunities nearby that students will experience in terms of field trips and visits to local art institutions, whether it's Santa Fe or Abiquiu or Taos proper. There's so much in the region. So I like thinking of the Doel Reed Center as this umbrella that creates the conditions for new experiences.
You mentioned that you have had opportunities to teach there in the past. You've done the Hargis Fellowship before you took over as director. What is your favorite class that you had been part of out at the Doel Reed Center?
I mean, you know, it's funny. It's like asking to choose between your children. Like I loved them all. They were incredibly fun. I think the first time I had a lot of learning to do about just how do you actually set up the equipment and make something possible in a space. The houses are beautifully appointed, they're wonderfully renovated, but they are really more like a home as opposed to a computer lab or a digital photography studio. So for me, it was always about building up all the different things that I wanted the students to be able to experiment with, and that took a bit of a learning curve. So by the 3rd time that I did it, I had that down a much more so, and I guess I'll point to that class because it was a large format photography class, which meant that students, each student used a 4x5 camera, which it's called a view camera. And this is the type of camera that you'll see, people will get under the dark cloth and they're looking at an image on a piece of glass that's behind the lens. Each photograph is completely manual. You compose it and then you put the film into the camera and you set all the little settings and you push the button and that's it. You have just one shot, and then you take that into the makeshift darkroom that we set up with tinfoil on the windows and all these kind of makeshift things. And then they produce a physical negative that is that photograph. And there's just something so special about putting that much attention into one picture, where we're so used to just, click, and I've got it, and I can show it to you, and I can put it on the internet, and it's great. This really just flips that all back in time to a different experience of image making. And those students, I think they had a great time. I know I did, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them. They're still making art. They're still working together A couple of them started a band and they're now playing all over Oklahoma. They just released an EP. So there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm that came out of that class. And I love teaching large format. It's really fun.
Not to get overly philosophical here.
Yeah.
But why is art important to a land-grant institution like Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful question. I think that it comes back to like what is possible from the human mind, and there is so much. There's so much that we even don't know. But to me, art making is just so evidently part of what it means to be human. This is something that we've been doing forever. We go all the way back to cave paintings, and then you go on into the Renaissance period, and then you go on into modern art, and then you get into postmodernism, and to now, it's always been with us. And I think that the power of the art department is that we are this unique space where students from all over, but particularly folks from Oklahoma, have a chance to try things out, to learn like what is printmaking, what is a large format camera under the dark cloth, where those opportunities just might not exist otherwise. But the Doel Reed Center is more than just an art space, of course. We have classes from all over the faculty at the university. They're able to apply. So I have this perspective as an art faculty member, and Doel Reed came from the arts, but part of what we're trying to do is really grow the opportunities to other disciplines at OSU as well.
Yeah, because there's some classes like community classes and things like that, correct, out at the Doel Reed Center?
So we have several different programs. The credit courses, that's our main programming for undergraduates. They're there for 2 weeks. They're all day, Monday through Friday, for 2 weeks. It's really intense, but then they walk away from that with a 3 credit hour course that applies to their degree. We also offer a program called Leisure Learning, which is a 1-week experience, although we're now thinking about different durations and different ways of adjusting that. But historically, it's been 1 week at the end of July where anybody can come, they can sign up for a class, and the classes change every year. And they're everything from cooking classes to history of the Southwest, there's a fly fishing course. So those are really a kind of a hybrid experience where we either have instructors from OSU who teach those leisure learning courses, or sometimes there are other folks from the Taos area who we bring in to teach those classes. And those are no credit, no grades, very much, the way it was explained to me as the new director is leisure learning is heavy on the leisure. But it's also, of course, very educational. It's just not the same kind of pressure where you're worried about curricula and syllabi and how it fits into a degree plan. And then beyond that, there are other programs as well, and that's something that we're hoping to expand is how else can we utilize the facility more throughout the year, but also how can we also more meaningfully connect to the community in the Taos and New Mexico area more generally.
Well, that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you next. I mean, you got to kind of build the photography program from the ground up. The Doel Reed Center was a little more established when you became the director, but what's kind of your vision? What would you like to see happen out there in the future?
For sure. Well, the main thing is just to continue the momentum. This is the 20th year of the Doel Reed Center, and I definitely want to continue what we've been doing, which is to offer these varieties of programs, but then also kind of zoom out a little bit and just ask, okay, what else is possible? And one of the big changes that's really exciting with this transition in leadership is that it's not just me as the new director, we have a manager, and the manager lives in Taos. And having her on site is going to be a transformational thing for the space, because having a faculty member in Stillwater overseeing things helps to connect university folks, but really having a person on the ground there is the way that we hope to reach out further. And she's already doing it through community outreach and philanthropy. And something else that I'm hoping to build on with that is to leverage the connections that I have with art folks in Santa Fe, but also university people in Albuquerque, and try to just raise the awareness for the center and try to find new ways that we can bring in those other partners.
That's Andy Mattern, the director of the Doel Reed Center. Andy, thanks for spending some time with us. We thank you for joining us as well. We'll see you next time.